Hey, and welcome to a brand new episode of Unblocking Your Purpose. I am your friend, your host, your girl, your sister, Jada, and I am so excited to be here with you, and especially for this episode. If you are new, as always, welcome. Thank you for being here, allowing someone to share something with you, or maybe you somehow came across the podcast. Either way, you are welcome. This is a safe space, a place where we come together and I just share with you what has been imparted to me. Maybe it's something I've lived through or something that I know of someone who's lived through it, and just coming to share and to let you know that you are not alone. I know a lot of times we feel like we are, but really and truly we're not. And as I always say, we are so much better together than when we're trying to do it alone. So if you are new, welcome. Pull up a chair. Let me talk with you for a little bit. And if you've been rocking with me, hello, welcome back for another week. So we are going to jump on into this episode. So last week, if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, go take a listen. Let me know what you think. Come to the community. Share with us what you think. It is growing. I know I said that last week, but it is growing. So I'm super excited about that, the Facebook group. So come on over and share with us, your thoughts and maybe what you're going through, and anything that you can help somebody else who may be going through something similar. You are definitely welcome. But last week, we talked about how sometimes in the midst of having the very things that we prayed for and that God has blessed us with, we will take a step and say, wait a minute, is this really what I was supposed to do? Is this the be all end all? Do I need a new life? I need to hit pause. And we just stop to think and say, no, it's not that we need, a new life. Maybe sometimes we are just a little bit overwhelmed. Maybe we are saying yes when we should really be saying no, that we're more in maybe just a stage where we're having to react to things instead of being proactive and being able to kind of manage things a little bit better. But we do not need to blow up the life we've been given, the life we've been blessed with, or, even wish, hope, pray for a new life. So we talked about that, talked about how maybe we're prioritizing everything and everyone before ourselves. And not that we are saying that we should be selfish in the way that we approach life, but we also cannot be the last priority on the list of things to do, and the people to help and to service and to guide through life. So taking stock of who we are, who we wish to become, who God has determined we should be in the season, and then walking in that. And so we don't necessarily need to blow up our lives. We just need to figure out what is needed in this season. How do we prioritize? How do we say no and mean no instead of saying yes to everything? So we kind of touched on that. So as we are moving into this week's episode, we are going to talk about how do we reclaim our time without feeling guilty? Does it sound like you? Are we always sitting up here trying to manage all the schedules? And I know I can speak for myself and probably a lot of other parents, regardless of what sport your child might be into or what extracurricular activity your baby might be into, we often feel like our lives are revolving around them, right? Like, what is the schedule? Where do we have to be? What do we have to do? Then throw in if you have a job, throw in if you have a spouse, throw in if you have hobbies for yourself that you want to get to, right? So we're forever being super busy and, not really in control of our time, or that's what it feels like. One, we feel like we don't have enough time, right? Them 24 hours are just not the same for everybody, which I kind of agree with, right? Depending on how things are set up, how much is on you, how much you are willing and able to outsource and give to other people to help you. Those 24 hours that we have in a day may not actually fill or be equal. So we talk about that too, right? We've talked about how we have to be like that Proverbs 31 woman, and we're trying to have the people who can work in their own zones of genius so that we can work in our zones of genius, where we can, delegate things, and then we're able to run forth and do the things that we can do, and it all comes together to accomplish our goals, right? So when we're talking about time, a lot of it is, well, I have to do all of these things. I can't trust anyone else to do it, or no one's going to do it the way that I do it. So then when we're trying to manage it and we take even an hour for ourselves, we often feel guilty. Is that you? If you are watching, you see me raising my hand. If you're listening, I'm raising my hand because in every episode, there's something that comes up, even for me, where I'm like, yep, been there, done it, or I'm still doing it and gotta keep working through this, right? Because again, this is not me just spewing on you. This is me walking through and seeing some areas that I need to tighten up as well. So when we're sitting up here feeling guilty for one, making time and then actually taking that time that we've set aside, we often have this guilt attached to it. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that so that maybe as you work through this next week after listening to this, maybe you can find, even if it's not an hour, maybe that's too much, but can you find 15 minutes to do something just for you, where you can slow down and the list can just push pause for a moment. So you can do something just for you and doing it without that guilt. All right. So I just want to say, I don't think that any of us are bad with time, right? I mean, yeah, there are probably times where we waste time or it feels like we're wasting time. Maybe we're scrolling on social media or taking time doing XYZ instead of doing ABC. Maybe that might feel wasteful, but really and truly, I believe everything happens, for a reason and how it should. And so I think we can be more intentional about our time and how we're doing certain things so that we don't have even that guilt associated with it. So it's not necessarily that you're bad with time. I think it's just a matter of what are the priorities, what is really pressing today, what can be put off for tomorrow. I know they say don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today, but what can theoretically be pushed off so that you can clear up some time, right? So I challenge you to think about that too. So it's not that you're bad with time. I think you're just carrying a lot. I think as moms, as busy women, career women, when we have all of these people or things that are putting their expectations on us, and then we feel like we have to absorb that, right? Because we're not able to say no because we're going to let somebody down. It's just that we have so much on us that sometimes it's hard to see. Sometimes it's hard to declutter. Sometimes it's hard to like strip it down to just get to like what really needs to be done. And so therefore you feel like, oh, I didn't get to this. And so therefore I'm a failure. And I'm just here to encourage you that you're not. I think that if something didn't get done, it may not have needed to be done. Sometimes things happen and we're just like, wow, that didn't happen. And then later on, something else comes up and you're like, oh, maybe it was okay that I didn't get around to that, right? So I don't think it's that we're bad with time. We're just carrying a lot. So I was so excited to get into this. Let me pause for a moment. Let's talk about the scripture that I want to throw in to kind of go along with this. So this is coming out of Ephesians 5, as always, coming out of the NLT, the New Living Translation, and it's verses 15 through 17. And it reads, "So be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days." In verse 17, "Don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do." Right? So sometimes as we are running and we're doing, and all these people need this and they need that, and here are the deadlines and blah, blah, blah. It's like, whoa, we should take a moment and say, cool, got it, received it, acknowledge it, got it. But then we need to stop and say, Lord, is this in line with the steps you've ordered for me to take? Is this where I need to show up in this moment? Is this something that I need to say no to? You don't have to be mean and nasty when you say it. But is this something that you need to let go and give to somebody else? So I think if we go to him, we talk about that, like we're going to him for wisdom, we're going to him for discernment. But if we are, as it says, not acting thoughtlessly, right? We're not just, okay, someone said I need this and you're just running to do it. We don't want to be thoughtless when we do this. We don't want to be mean. We don't want to be hasty, right? But we want to understand what he wants us to do. So when we're taking that pause to say, okay, what is that you want me to do? I think it helps us with those steps. All right. So let's keep going with this, right? Again, it's not a time management, but it's also like a permission problem, right? Are we sitting up here saying, oh, I can't. Oh, I don't have the authority to say no. I don't have the authority to push back. I am not able to refuse to do this. And I think that we have to take that step back because it really may not be our mission to carry. It may not be our load to bear. So, yes, we have a lot going on, but we have to realize what is for us and what is not for us. So it could be just a permission and a boundary, right? Like if you say no or it doesn't feel right for you or Holy Spirit is guiding you, that intuition, then you have to be able to say no and be comfortable and don't feel guilt for that. All right. Why is it that we feel like we cannot rest without feeling guilt? I am so guilty of this. This falls in my lap. I will have times where I'm like, you know what? I am going to schedule time for me to have time for myself, right? So the kids are going to go with a sitter. My husband is going and doing his thing, and now I have time for me. And sometimes it's hard for me to just lay down and stop and be still. Or maybe it's not even lay down, but it's to be like, hey, here's my things to do list. And girls, women, ladies, sisters, I make things to do list all the time. And I will sit up here and feel like I have to check something off of that list. Why do we do that? Why are we not able to just rest, refuel, recharge, and not feel guilty about that? Now, I was saying I'm getting better at it, but there are still times that I have to be very intentional to not feel that. And I just encourage you to learn to rest and not feel guilt. How about this one? Saying no, right? You say no, but then it's no because blah, 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 right? Like we have to overly explain why we said no. And like I tell my children, guys, no is a word and it is a sentence. I don't have to explain it. It is what it is. And I'm trying to teach them to have a voice, but there's also times where it just has to be like, no, just do what I told you to do. That's it. That's all. And I think that we have to tell ourselves that too, right? No, that's it. That's all. There's no need to over explain why we have to say no, why that boundary has to be there. So let's work on that, right? You and me, let's work on that, saying no and not over explaining our no. It is what it is. How about this? Taking time for yourself, right? And not feeling guilty. I am legit working on a staycation. This has been on my vision board. I think I've talked about it in an episode or two where I get to just go take a Saturday and do things for me, go get a hotel, have a dinner, lunch by myself, have a dinner by myself, and then wake up that Sunday and have a breakfast for myself before I go to church and grab these kids, right? And it hasn't come to fruition, but my therapist, I told her about it. So she's like, Jada, when are you doing that? And so I had it penciled for a certain date here in April, and I'm having to push it, but it is still on the list. And I am not going to feel guilty for that. I am not going to feel guilty for just taking time and taking space for me. So that's something I want to do. I would love to hear what is something that you want to do, have been wanting to do, putting off because you feel guilty, because it feels selfish, just for you. Let me know. I want to know so that I can encourage you and, just keep that, at the forefront of your mind because you matter. So when we're not doing these things, when we are overextending, when we are not able to say no and keep that no, when we are trying to say no and over explaining, what does that mean? How does that look? Well, sis, it's going to look like you are overextending yourself. And that is just going to cause you to be more in that overwhelm. It's going to cause you to be more in that frustration. It's probably going to make you feel a little bit of resentment because you're like, I didn't want to do this in the first place. And here I am, right? Because we haven't been able to manage not feeling guilty for protecting ourselves and our space. So we're going to look like we're overextending. We're going to look like we're overcommitting. We may actually double book ourselves, right? Because yes, I love pen and paper. I'm making a planner. Cannot wait to share it with those of you who it might help. But like you may not be writing it down and you think you're going to remember. And then next thing you know, you have 2 or 3 things at the same time. And you're like, how am I going to do this? And now you're causing yourself extra angst, right? So that's how that can show up. And we don't want that because then we are going to feel extra guilt for letting somebody down and most likely ourselves. Like it's one thing to let other people down, but it's another to let ourselves down because we are with us 24/7. So if we can get ahead of it, hopefully we can stop seeing the overextension, stop seeing so much of the overwhelm, stop seeing more of the guilt that comes with that, right? And then we sit up here and we're like, why am I so exhausted? I'm so tired, right? Like I wake up tired and we shouldn't feel like that. I'm not saying we should be spry all the time. That would be wonderful, but we shouldn't be just so overextended that we're tired and not able to enjoy life because we should have heaven here on earth. And I think that if we're able to get ahead of things where we're more proactive than being reactive, then, that we can flip the switch on that and change the trajectory of that. And that's what I want for me. And I want that for you. So, this whole thing about guilt, we have to understand like the world is going to keep turning. Most likely people are going to be fine if we say no and stop. And so I think we need to really wrestle with what is it at the core when it comes to guilt. And we can work through that and then we can process through that. And if you need help, I am here to help you with that. Because if we can get to that and then we give ourselves permission, we give ourselves grace, we give ourselves room, then I think we're going to show up different. And this thought of guilt over our heads is not going to be what drives our decisions to end up being in the overwhelm and to be in all of the things that put us in a negative space. All right. So here's the truth, sis. Just because we can do something doesn't mean that we have to do it or that we should do it. And that goes back to asking, where does he need us to be? Where does he want us to be? What are we doing in this season? And what are the things that are asking extra of us? How does that align with where we're supposed to be? So yes, you are fabulous. You are wonderful. You are gifted and talented. You are wonderfully made, right? Fearfully and wonderfully made. All of that. But we have to realize that just because we can do something does not mean that we should or we have to. And I think once we understand that, then maybe we will move in a different way. So, our time is really just a reflection of our priorities. What is important? Yes, right now I'm running my kids to dance. I'm running them to piano. I'm doing all of these things, right? And that is kind of a priority. But I am soon going to slow down and be like, all right, where are we at? Where are we at? What are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish? What are y'all putting into this? Because then they have some skin in the game. I can sit and say, why am I beating myself up and why am I taking this more seriously than they are? And that's going to probably most likely shift my priorities. And I will be sharing that to say, okay, how is my life looking? And not just with the season of like spring. Yes, we're blooming. Yes, we're, still planting and watering and seeding and seeing what's blooming, but also for the summer, like where is it where I can adjust with the seasons and adjust with what is being required of me and what I need to do and what he wants me to do. And I challenge you to do the same thing, right? So in us reclaiming our time, we need to look at the priorities. We need to ask, where does he want us to be? It does not mean that because we're reclaiming time that we're doing less. We are just doing what is going to be more important with intention. What really, desires and demands our attention, our energy, our money, our emotions, what needs that right now? And then that way we can reclaim the time to focus on that versus being scattered. So what does your day look like? I keep saying, yes, I'm going to work out. I haven't gotten there yet, but I am. I promise. I'm promising you, promising me, right? And so I have to look at that and say, what is the priority? My health should be a priority. My rest should be a priority. Doing those things, my time with God should be a priority. So if I'm setting that as priorities for myself, then that should show in my actions, right? And so those are some things that I'm working on. I really want my business to get up. I really want this life and success coaching to take off and to help women who might be you. You may need some extra help and I am here to do that, right? So I have to make sure that I have the time and the space and all of that to encompass that in my life. So I too am working on this. What are the priorities? Because really what we're doing shows where the priorities and what the priorities are in our lives. So reflect on that. What's taking the top spots of your time and your energy and your emotions and your money? Where's that at? What does that look like? And is it in alignment with where you want to be in the season? And if not, then we need to sit and figure out how we switch that so that you are in alignment. Okay. So start small. Start small. Let's create just that 15-minute block in your day, every day. 15 minutes. That's just for you. That you can sit and have a hot meal or have some coffee or journal or talk with a friend or talk with God. Watch a show maybe, right? Maybe you're working on something and you need to create. Find that spot. Start with 15 minutes and then increase from there. But start with that and don't feel guilty for it. and then grow from there. Pause before you say yes. Let's not just be like, oh yeah, my year of yes. Yeah, it would be great. But we are still in this in these bodies, in this flesh, right? And so there are limits to things we can do. So why don't we pause before we just say yes? And let's ask him, is this where he wants us to be? Is this an alignment with where we're trying to be? Do that. And let's just give ourselves time to think before we're just acting and doing things. And see if that changes the trajectory of where you're trying to go. See if that changes how you feel internally. See if that changes how you move. Maybe you're not just now rushing all the time. You may still be rushing a little bit, but maybe you slow down a little bit to end up going faster. I just want you to know that you are allowed to do these things, and not that you need permission, but if you need it, there it is. But do this for you, because guess what? When you're taking care of yourself, your spouse, your children, your friends, your family, your coworkers, they're going to see that. And they're going to be like, whoa, there's been a shift and a change. What's going on? And you're going to be living from a place of authority. You're going to be living from a place of peace, from a place of flow, from a place of being proactive and more in control, so that you're reclaiming the time to do what matters most. So drop me a note in here and let me know what you're going to change, how much time you're going to set for yourselves. I'll drop mine in here as well. And I cannot wait to hear and read and cheer you on along your way. All right. So until next time, just embrace this. You're not behind. You are becoming. We are still unblocking your purpose one step at a time. And if you need anything, just reach out. I will be here to help you on your way. All right. Until the next time. Love you. Bye.